They're coming after the judiciary, which is the one thing that's keeping us somewhat safe from his policies right now. Fun fact, it's the executive branch's job to enforce the law. So as soon as they decide to ignore judicial rulings, there's no one left. They are the ones who enforce those rulings. More specifically, if someone is in contempt of court, the U.S. Marshals are in charge of enforcing that. And the U.S. Marshals fall under the purview of, you guessed it, the executive branch. Quick refresher, the legislative branch, that's Congress, writes the law. The judicial branch, which is the federal court system all the way up to the Supreme Court, interprets and rules on the law. And then the executive branch, that's the president, enforces the law. So why am I saying that they're going after the judiciary? Not just because it's part of every authoritarian handbook, but because they've pretty much told us. J.D. Vance just tweeted this with a couple of bad faith arguments, which he knows because he's a lawyer, with the conclusion that judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. If a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. And if a judge tried to command the attorney general how to use their discretion as a prosecutor, that's also illegal. So technically, that's true. But also technically, there are no judges doing that right now. Because technically, a judge can only rule on things that have already happened. And technically, in their rulings, they can only tell someone that they're not allowed to do something if they've already done it, and there's reasonable suspicion to believe that they will do it again if not ordered not to. But that's why, despite the judicial branch being our, one saving grace right now, we're constantly playing on the defense because judges can't rule on executive orders or policies that have not yet been passed or put in place. The orders have to be signed, the damage has to begin, and then people can sue based on those damages. Or a prosecutor could prosecute a crime that has been committed. They can't prosecute a crime that will be committed. Does that make sense? But he's clearly and very knowingly misrepresenting what judges are doing and what the judicial branch does in order to delegitimize the judicial branch. Elon Musk also just retweeted something that was attempting to make a similar point. And sadly, if you look at Vance's tweet, you'll see that most of the replies are cheering him on and saying like, hell yeah, not understanding a word of this, let's be real. Even though actual legal scholars like Senator Adam Schiff pushed back and called bull on this. It may not seem like it right now because we're so focused on all the damage that they're attempting to inflict, but the courts have in fact ruled in favor of the legal challenges in a lot of cases and stopped or paused these orders. They are keeping us somewhat safe. Again, they can only rule reactively, not proactively. So a lot of the damage is still being done. But if they decide to ignore a ruling, who do we turn to? You'll hear comparisons once again to Nixon and Watergate because at one point when Nixon was court ordered to hand over a bunch of tapes, he basically suggested that he would just ignore the court order. And luckily, Congress was like, yeah, no. So ultimately he did comply with the court order and then stepped down. But at that point, Congress was still operating in good faith and Republicans still cared about the Constitution. Unfortunately, the ultimate flaw with our system is that the founding fathers assumed we wouldn't put any psychopaths in power.